Brad.
Brad, and a seconder?
Brad Leonard, I should say.
Yes.
Sorry, Brad.
I can second it.
And
Jennifer.
Jen. Excellent. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest? Seeing none, we'll move along to the adoption of the minutes. 3.1, resolution of the adoption of the minutes. Can I have a mover and seconder, please?
So moved, Brad Parks.
Okay,
Second, Brad Leonard.
and all in favor? Show of hands. And that's carried. So moving on to item number 4 tonight, we have items for discussion. The recommendations from the Environmental Advisory Committee and the report that went to council. So back in the first session of council in June 6th, I believe it was, we sent our 5 recommendations on to council, and council accepted and adopted every one of those 5 recommendations that we made, and directed council or directed staff to go ahead and begin implementation of those. So during the last meeting of council on the 16th of June, the staff came back and gave us a timeline for how they were going to move forward and a costing for the first 2 steps of the plan. Removing the bin sites for Wolseley Bay, as well as gating and putting cameras up for the landfill transfer site. I believe they've moved ahead to make the Ministry of Environment. And so in that last meeting of June the 16th, the council then adopted the cost. We approved the expenditures necessary to gate and put cameras up. And so that's where we're at today. And that pretty much covers the recommendations of our advisory committee and where we're at with those. And there's a report there to speak to it. Are there any questions about where we're at with this process? Seeing none, this is going to be a very quick meeting. Giselle, you're muted. Go ahead and turn your mic on. You're still muted, Giselle.
Oh,
Mayor
okay, there it is.
Pico,
I can't
apologies.
see very well. I just want to ensure the committee that one of the things we discussed at council was that communication with the affected resident is really important, so that one day they just don't get up and go to Wolseley Bay and find the bins are gone. So the staff they've been amazing in getting everything ready, communication package prior to any of the implementation. So that'll be going out to our residents, I would say fairly soon, so that they get a heads up. As well, the tax bills are coming out in July. And so there'll be a report in the tax bill about what the plans are going to be. So the residents who are affected can't say they didn't know. And if they have any questions, then they can call the office for information. And I think the process is slow enough so that nobody's in a great shock when it appears. And one of the things, we have to tell residents is that, we have to take, strong measures in order to save our landfill, and also not to have a whole bunch of garbage disposed on the ground for absolutely no reason. So I think that was really important. Council was really strong on that one.
Thank you, Mayor Peugeot. And actually, in section 4.2, it speaks to that actual communication plan. In the next section we were going to discuss, and talks about how we asked for a very strong communication plan to the public so they weren't caught off guard by this. But I agree, council was all on board, and we're we all agreed that even 2 weeks ago, we saw a lot of garbage being dumped that was bulk waste, and people still abusing the rules of the transfer sites. And it is time to actually make this move and get some actual compliance from people who are not treating the sites properly. Oh, Brad Leonard, go ahead.
Quick question. Maybe Jennifer's going to address this as well. I don't know, but is there going to be any teeth with these kinds of implementations? In that, are you going to start finding people and sticking it to them so that people learn not to dump stuff? If they're going to dump, take it to the dump, please.
So to that question, Brad, we are putting in new camera systems that will actually pick up who is not following in compliance. And I believe with our new bylaw officer that we're adding, and I'll let Kevin speak to this more. And we're actually going to, and we have started, I believe, Kevin, last week we find somebody for Malvern, right?
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair. I have limited time, and usually when you're around, it's hard to catch people. But with another bylaw officer on staff, for sure, we're gonna hammer down pretty hard on the bins this year. So, yeah, I did grab somebody last week while I try to stop while I'm having lunch if I'm around a bin site, and I got somebody there. So, yeah, it's no mercy from the bylaw department. If they get caught, they're getting a fine. So,
excellent. So that, Brad, is a part of our enforcement. We're going to have the bylaw officer there when we're open, and the bins will be closed off to public eventually in all sites, so that we're there to give them the education piece. And so hopefully there isn't non-compliance, and then if there is, then the fines will be set, and we're going to move forward. So we did get somebody back last week. Go ahead, Brad.
Yeah, well, I just sort of a general follow-up to that. Is there a snitch line? And I hate to use that phrase, but let's face it, there's a lot of people that use it, the general public. And if we see somebody who's abusing the site, is there a number that we could phone in on or report somebody?
And Kevin, would you like to follow up?
We have a complaint process at the municipality. And if anybody wants, they can take photographs. Like, everybody has a cell phone on them, and I always welcome if they have a clear picture of a license plate and the person doing it. I always take it and follow up with it. It doesn't happen very often. People don't like to snitch or rat on each other. But
Understood.
Thank you.
And Jen, did you have a question?
Yeah, just in follow up to what Mayor Pajot was talking about with the communication, in the tax letter that's going out in July, there will be information for all residents about the process coming up.
That's correct.
Okay.
The staff is working to put together a package outlining the changes and what's to be expected, so that people aren't, as Mayor Pajot had said, caught off guard or surprised by this, and so that when they show up, they know what's going to happen, and it gives them a bit of a chance before changes set in to realize this is what's coming, and why. I think too, that's the important part, is the why. This isn't just a snap decision. This isn't just a reaction to something that happened a week or two ago. This is an ongoing problem, and that we actually have to do something to mitigate people's actions.
Okay, thank you. I was just curious because I know of a few people who were a little surprised to see an officer when they went to go dump their garbage in the bins. And during the crazy time that we're living in right now, they thought maybe it was something related to COVID, and they were kind of, panicked and caught off guard. And so that's good.
Yeah, and seeing that the person's there and watching, and that bylaw officer can step in and suggest better ways to recycle, or what they're recycling that shouldn't be recycled. It is an education piece as well. So not just handing out a slap on the hand for bad behavior and carrying on. Go ahead, Jennifer.
just something that I while we're talking about it, I assume that the two main questions that the bylaw officer would be asking would be, where are you from? And I know this because my husband's already encountered this. Where are you from, and what are you dumping, and directing them to where to dump it. My personal opinion, and maybe this is already happening, I don't know, because that's not my job in our house, so I don't have firsthand experience with it. But I'm just wondering if maybe this is the case, like I said, more focus could be on where what people are dumping and where to put it, rather than the "are you from Noelville" piece, especially once the Wolseley Bay site is closed, because I assume that's probably where we were getting the most out of towners. I know Shaw Road probably has a few St. Charles residents using it, but I don't know, just thinking for maybe a little bit less conflict and more productive results, more focus on what are you bringing and where should it go.
Certainly. So I'm going to let Kevin speak to this, but I agree. It's a matter of speaking to the person if they see them doing something wrong. But it's also important to catch the people from out of our community. We shouldn't be paying for West Nipissing's waste. I know on an occasion I've followed somebody out of West Nipissing and they've dumped in Noelville, and they're not somebody I recognized, and they're coming from their cottage, and our taxpayers shouldn't be paying for that expense, honestly. But Kevin, would you like to have a word?
Through you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I just there's bylaws in place, and one of the questions they're going to get is, where's the garbage coming from? That's just how it goes, because I'm there to enforce the bylaws, and if I know what you're saying, but they have to be from our community to use the site. That's how it works here. That's how the ministry has it laid out for us, and we have to follow those rules. So.
And too, I would say to that, Kevin, that the more outside garbage we take, we shorten our landfill's lifespan. I mean, accepting trash that our citizens aren't paying to dispose of, it eats up the landfill site quicker. So therefore, we do have a window where we will run out of space, and we have to conserve that. So I do believe that finding people that don't belong here, don't pay taxes or rent here, is a good thing. Jen, did you want to rebut, or I see you moving?
I mean, I understand. I just worry about what the repercussions of that will be. Are we going to see more stuff dumped illegally on the side of the road? And I just wonder, what the bigger problem is the bigger problem that the people here are not using the transfer sites and the landfill properly, or is the bigger problem that we have all these out-of-towners using it? And because we're a tourist region, we also have coming to camp here who are not going to be from the area and who don't pay. I don't know if you can still hear me.
Yes. Yep.
Oh, you can. Okay. I've had some internet issues the last couple of weeks here. Who are not from the area and don't pay taxes here, but have come to camp or go to a lodge or whatnot. I don't know. Aren't using the transfer sites properly, then I wonder if it's just more worth it to focus on that piece, so that we hopefully avoid more garbage being dumped illegally. But that's just my own personal opinion, and I'm not involved in this. Sure. As much as you guys are. So.
Sure. Well, I believe both focuses are important. We certainly don't want to see roadside waste being dumped, because the out-of-towner or from people from other communities can't hit our bins. That would obviously be a huge problem for the community if if people started curbside dumping in the ditches. There are laws against littering and waste. And of course, we have OPP patrolling the roads, and I would hope that they could come across people, but also that it will be an adjustment for sure. Does anybody else have anything to add?
I do, Mr. Chairman. It's Brad Parks.
Please go ahead, Brad.
So my understanding is the problem is it's not so much somebody dumping a bag of garbage, it's somebody dumping the TVs and their desks and their swimming pools and everything else beside the bins, right? I mean, let's be honest, it's a tourist area, and you know, if somebody's at a camp, you know, visiting their friend's camp, they have garbage, they're leaving a lodge, they're going to leave their garbage at the lodge. So I think we really need to target the problem. And not the tourists. If the tourists are doing something wrong, by all means, but we need that business.
Oh, for sure. No, I completely agree, Brad, that a lot of it is the large bulk items being left improperly. The other component we're having is the improper recycling, where people are mixing the type of recycling materials at those sites and then causing us to have to dispose of whole loads of recycling because it's contaminated beyond the use point. So, you know, certainly I think the bylaw officer being there to educate will certainly help with that, I hope. And we're talking about curbside collection as well of that recycled material, which should also greatly improve our contamination rate, I certainly believe. Okay, well, we can move along, I believe. Now, I should take a step back. When I adopted the agenda, I forgot we had added a motion, and Michelle, we had talked about it earlier. So I guess we'll make that 4.3 and then move 4.3 to 4.4 around tendering the recycling collection. So I apologize, but we'll continue on, noting that there's an additional item. So going on to the actual modification in 4.2 modification report. I'm sure you've all had a chance to read the report. So council saw this on the 16th, and it just outlines the timeline for communicating to citizens what's going to happen, what we plan to implement in different months, and as well how we've contacted the Ministry of Environment to modify some of those sites. We have to actually notify the MOE before we can close sites. I believe that's right, Robert? Yeah, so in order to modify any of our services, we have to have the Ministry of Environment involved and modify the certificate. So I believe they've been contacted now. Robert, do you want to speak to that?
Yes, they have. They're going to be coming back to us with directives.
Okay, so what if they come back to us and say perhaps that they don't like our plan? Is that possible that we would have to change or modify something based on their thoughts? I wonder how that would go.
Well, we're hoping that they don't come back with that, but if they do, we'll have to modify our plan.
Okay, so it's something that in the future, if the MOE doesn't like the thought, that they might have the ultimate say on some of these sites then?
At the end of the day, they have the last word. Yes.
Right. Okay, that was just something that just came to me. I thought would be an interesting question to ask. Do any of the committee members have any thoughts or questions about that report? And welcome, Bob.
Hi, Randy. I made it.
Yes. So I don't see anybody putting their hands up that wants to speak to that report any further. So council, in that you'll see in the bottom part there was a budget component, tendering for the gates, cameras, and signage and temporary fencing, and we approved that on the 16th. So tender will go out for those materials necessary to gate off the Noelville site and move into that phase of controlling traffic flow when the site's closed during landfill hours. Well, seeing no other questions regarding that report, I say we move along to the final item. That
Hang on, Randy.
Yes.
I'm just curious to hear from the members of the public. Like, I mean, you saw the plan and how we're planning to communicate, and I'd like to hear from you what you want as members of the public included in that type of communications, so that we get a clear view of what the public needs to know from, again, from your point of view. Like, we know as staff they've been absolutely great about putting it together. In council, we had our 2 cents in, but I just want to make sure that what's being proposed here is going to clearly explain to the members of the public what we're doing and why we're doing it. And who's that cutie pie with you, Jennifer?
Does Louis Cuchillera know Louis? No?
Bye-bye.
Jen, while you're on the camera, do you want to speak to that and how you think about the communication plan?
Okay. Well, I don't have a lot to say right now, but the shorter and sweeter, the better. If it was possible for us to see a draft before it goes out and make some comments on it, I would. School's almost over now, so I'll have a little bit more free time. Pictures, anything that really grabs their attention. And I assume like this would be something that would go out in an envelope, like a paper envelope kind of thing. Okay.
So I'll ask Michelle, we're sending this out with the tax bill, but it's a separate letter with the tax bill, this communication, or how are we implementing?
So that's correct. So we had initially discussed just sending out to the affected areas, but I feel like we are going to write one generalized letter to the entire municipality to let everybody know what's transpiring. In that letter, there will be other resources available for them to find further information. So they'll be able to access that on our social media platforms and website. Information that has happened so past meetings and meeting minutes.
Oh, perfect. Seeing that this is our last meeting till fall, I believe that it wouldn't hurt to just maybe have us all email the draft and we can all look at it without having to really meet. Like Jennifer said, to review it quickly wouldn't hurt. I think to get some input, we could all input back to the municipality and let us know what the draft looks like and what we think.
Certainly.
If that would be possible.
Sure.
Excellent. Does anybody else have any thoughts? None of the Brads, okay.
Oh, I have my hand up, Randy.
Oh, I didn't see you, Brad. My apologies. Go ahead.
I think we need to explain, be very clear as to why we're doing this, and it's abuse of the system. And let's be honest, if we have to replace the landfill, it's a major piece of capital, not to mention the decades it will take to get approval to build a landfill and all the engineering reports that go with it. Need to be clear about that. We're trying, and it's not about money. It's not about picking up garbage. It's about the future.
Absolutely.
That's my take on it.
No, completely agree. We only have the one asset, and when it's full, finding another is going to be nearly impossible, I bet you, with the stricter new regulations in the world these days. So yes, absolutely. Okay, well, I think we've all put our 2 cents in on that. I think we'll move ahead to
Chair.
the addition. Yes.
I was just wondering, it's just sort of something that I thought of right now, so I don't know if it's been done in the past. I'm just wondering if maybe including a very short survey
Mhm.
in that letter, just simply asking, okay, we're all decent here, okay. Just asking if, do you recycle? Just, I don't know what the key questions would be, but something about recycling to find out how many people are currently recycling. I can't think off the top of my head what exactly, those questions would be, but maybe we could, if the rest of the committee would like to go ahead with that, we could be in touch through email. And I was thinking too, maybe the businesses, it'd be interesting to find out how many of the businesses, the schools. I can only speak from my school and what I have seen personally, and there
Yes.
seems to be a lack of recycling in the area. So
Well, I would ask Martin to probably speak. We see tonnage reports on recycling quite often, and I believe that there is a significant amount that is being recycled. But I also believe that maybe perhaps the commercial industrial sector doesn't quite meet up to what some of the residents are doing. But Martin, maybe you could chime into what you feel how the system is working.
Yes, Mr. Chair. Now, on this topic, it'd be more of either Michelle or Kevin's field of expertise.
Okay.
I'm
Sorry.
thinking more to roads now than I am environmental.
I just wanted you to feel included. That's all. Who would like to take the
through you, Mr. Chair. This year, I believe we created a new commercial agreement with all of our transfer or all of our bins that we do have at all the businesses in the municipality, and they all have to implement some sort of recycling program. That was part of the agreement, and so far to date, we haven't had one issue with one bin yet. So they've all been following the new rules and the guidelines set out in the agreement, because there's some pretty heavy cost if they didn't follow. So I think we've sorted out all those bins so far.
So that agreement, as I recall, was for businesses already on the system, and not all businesses are on the system at this point, correct?
Yes, that is correct. But the ones that do come to the landfill site, they are checked upon arrival. So
Okay, excellent.
out of curiosity, are the two schools in town, are they using this bin program?
Through you, Kevin?
Yes, both schools in Noelville are. One still hasn't signed the contract, so we haven't picked them up, but St. Antoine is using it, yes.
Okay, I don't see anybody else with a question. Mayor Pajot, go ahead.
I just have a question for Michelle. Michelle, so when we send out the letters in the tax bill, but we're also going to send a separate letter to the affected people, right? Like, we're not just sending the one general thing, tax bill, where people pick up their tax bill, look, oh, how much did it go up? Okay, not so bad, and they put it away, right? But the affected people are getting a separate letter, right?
Yes, to you, Mayor. There will be a separate letter, and then there will be one general letter to all residents.
Perfect, thank you.
And then the social media component as well. So hopefully that nobody should be able to say they didn't know it was coming or see the changes were going to happen. Excellent. Okay, so I think we should move along to the addition, item 4.3, the tendering of the recycling. I'm not sure, is it Michelle that's going to speak on this?
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair. I would like to speak about a part of the resolution that council made to enter into a pilot recycling curbside program within the urban areas of the municipality. So staff are in the midst of preparing what would look like for the RFP. And I would like to share my screen because I would like to show a map of the municipality and what staff are looking at for the urban areas, and then take recommendations from committee members on the areas that we are proposing. So I'll just share my screen here. All right, can everybody see that?
I just got a big green and, oh, there we go.
Yeah,
Yes.
Sarah.
Yeah,
Okay.
Michelle, can you make it bigger? Can't see it.
It was a hard thing to do there because you
Okay.
had a snipping tool to try to fit it all on one
Okay.
page.
If
So
you use
sorry
your-
for my nose. You're going to see my nose, but
Use your 2 fingers on the screen
Sorry
there,
about
Michelle,
that.
and drag it out.
oh, okay.
I can't. I'm
Resize.
sorry.
That's okay, Michelle. Don't worry about it.
What I would like to do is I'm going to edit as we talk.
Mhm.
Here. Hello. All right. So I know it is very difficult to see, but we were looking at the urban areas.
Mhm.
We would be going this way, down Maillet, Pilon. Now I know this is quite a large area, but we feel like if we're doing this section here, then to accommodate the route, we're going past this way anyways to go to Albin, and that it is a high congested area. And we were looking at going this way as well, Del Monte Guerin, and we would be going directly across to 528, providing them with curbside recycling as well to
Oh,
the
wow.
end here. All right, and then we would be looking at the Albin area.
Mhm.
Hoping I'm covering everything here. And there's also the Presqu'île Leger area where there's quite a few homes. So we're trying to incorporate all this. How does that look?
Wow, that's very
And
extensive.
we're also looking at, so this is North Channel Road that would be off of Highway 528 down
Mhm.
here. Now, we are assuming that, well, I mean, we could do this area as well.
Michelle, is that the highway when you're doing Monetville?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay.
And all residents along that area.
Okay.
Okay, so
Wow.
that's what we got.
So that's a very extensive area. We're going to actually collect quite a bit. I can't see everybody's hands at this point, so because we're sharing our screen.
Okay, I can
So-
stop my share and we can come back to it if we need to.
Okay, perfect. So does anybody want to offer their thoughts on the mapping and the RFP that we're going to enter? Bob, go ahead. Free go.
yes, Randy, and good evening to everyone. No, I know some of those roads like down North Channel, and you had North Channel Beach Road and Maya Road. I mean, there might be 1 or 2 houses, like places like that. I think it wouldn't be worthwhile. And I'm just wondering to give them the service and to give myself the service at the tip of Bear Lake. Would there be an opportunity for us just to bring our recycling, say, to a neighbor that's getting pickup and piggybacking with them? Or are we going to start counting recycling bags? I don't think that was the issue of limiting recycling, but I think we should be able to do that to, and anybody else's thoughts on it?
Michelle wanted to answer that question. Please go ahead.
For you, Mr. Chair. So typically recycling does not have a limit. It is something that we are collecting to divert from our landfill, and the more that's not contaminated, the better. So, I mean, it would all depend on who the contractor was. But I mean, the more bins, if I'm sure that if a neighbor had a bin and you could put it at their site, as long as it wasn't contaminated material, you would probably have to discuss that with your neighbor to make sure that it was okay. But there's recycling is unlimited. It's not like garbage where there is a limit that's going into landfills.
Yeah, I would certainly think you'd need the neighbors to collaborate and agree. And then, yeah, if some of your neighbor brings his contaminated recycling and then they won't accept it, then it's left on your lawn, and there might be some disputes perhaps. So, I guess if you're a good friend, you agree. Go ahead, Bob.
Yes, Randy, it could be very easily something like that, like Bob Prevost written on my bin. And if I throw away my old Toronto Maple Leaf jersey and it's not recyclable, then we know it's coming back. It's coming from me. But
Bob,
yes, we have to talk to the neighbor. And sorry, Randy.
I said, Bob, are you switching teams?
Never.
Good, because I think Rick would be disappointed.
Yeah, he would be. But with the neighbor's permission, I think this could be worked out.
That was a little inside council joke. Richard Millett, Councillor Millett and Bob had a little Canadians Leafs head on going there for a while. So Jennifer, you had a question?
Yeah, I just had a question about bins. I know I've mentioned before, and I know they're probably expensive, but if we were going to do this program, are we going to be providing bins? Because I would hate to see people putting it in their recycling into blue recycling bags, which are then going to go to the landfill.
So I'll open that back to the staff as well for discussion. I would imagine maybe the contractor would supply those with the RFP, but I don't know. So go ahead, Michelle, my apologies.
For you, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
So I'm not sure if all contractors would provide that. The contractor that we had discussed with doesn't, but the municipality does have an opportunity to get bins at a discounted rate to provide to the municipality, but that would be something that we would present to council, some costing for that, and then they could move forward with that decision.
Makes sense. Can you disclose who you've discussed initially the RFP with? What company?
We had only asked our current contractor what type of services would be available. It
wasn't because they're coming from North Bay, correct? For the recycling?
They currently pick up our recycling from the landfill. Yeah, they do come from North Bay.
Right. Okay. Do you have a follow-up, Jen, or is that good?
So then the municipality, the staff are going to come up with a plan, and you guys will talk about it. We'll talk about that at our next meeting, and then we would present something to council after that. Is that
yeah, everything tries to come through us first so that we can sort of review it, talk about it, and then we move it on to council if we feel it's a good idea. I believe they already kind of know the cost of bins. I think it was discussed earlier. I'd heard a number floating around, so we already at a discount know what they would cost.
In the communication letter going out in July,
Mhm.
is this something that we will be talking about then as well? Is the curbside pickup, or is that a different letter at a different time?
Michelle, would you like to speak to that?
The communication plan for the pilot curbside collection has not been discussed
Okay.
yet.
Yeah, so that we're just going to be sending out the notice for the sites themselves then that we're closing or modifying, and then this, once we get a little further down the road, will be communicated as well then, I guess.
Okay, so we would have info about whether we're doing the bins or not by the time we send out a letter. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
I feel really strongly about the bins,
Okay.
just for the record.
And you made a very good point, I think, at the last meeting that, yeah, we're throwing away plastic that we can't recycle, right? We don't recycle bags. So the bin would actually be more beneficial to the environment than not. So I think that council should be able to see the positive in that and balance the costs. So do we have anybody else? Oh, here we go, Mr. Parks. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So they're collecting, the map looks great, Michelle. It covers quite a few people. I'm just wondering the volume that we're expecting. Are they going to be taking it back to the transfer station at Noelville? Or are they running it right back to North Bay, say, or Sudbury, whoever gets contract?
Go ahead, Michelle.
So through you, Mr. Chair, that would all depend on who actually bid on the RFP and who won the RFP. So
Okay.
we currently have the contract with North Bay to pick up our 40-yard bins from the landfill, but that we cannot assume that they would win the RFP, and that the logistics there would have to be worked out.
Yep. So I guess I'm thinking if there's not enough volume they're picking up, would it be worth getting the dual side truck and pick up garbage at the same time?
It's a good question.
Because if we're gonna run a truck and put carbon in the air, let's fill it up. I mean, ultimately, that's why you got Laurentian's garbage truck. It wasn't running full.
So our bin sites in Alban bring in, there's what, 6 or 7 recycling bins, Michelle, there, and they're usually full twice a week, I believe.
I'm going to let Kevin speak to that.
Kevin? Okay, perfect.
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair. They're picked up Tuesdays, Thursdays, and then some of us picked up on Saturdays as well. So
And
quite a bit.
I know they're generally quite full when the trucks go, or when I go at least.
They're over full.
Yeah, so there's not likely, once they start picking curbside, that the truck's going to be very empty. Considering the volume, if they're saving it at home for the week rather than bringing it 2 or 3 times a week to the main bin. My concern has always been air in those loads, compaction, of course, but if the truck's compactable, has a compactor capacity, then you reduce the amount of air in that load and they can get more in and get it home. That's always beneficial in my opinion, but. Do you have a follow-up, Brad, or is that good?
No, that's good, Mr. Chair. It's just, I always like having options on the table. And perhaps maybe that's something you put in the RFP, is it worth putting an alternate price in for waste pickup on the same route?
Sure.
Just a thought. Sorry, staff.
No, I mean, that's why we're here, right? To think outside of the box and to come up with some smart ideas. I think our public has a lot of experienced and very intelligent people, and to get those thoughts that maybe we aren't considering into the table is important. So that's why we do these committee meetings. So it's good to hear different thoughts.
Randy?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, if we're going to change the contract parameters, then that has to go to council for approval first.
Okay. So, Mr. Leonard, do you have any input or thoughts?
Not really. Everything that's been said, I certainly fully agree with. I like the direction everything is being taken now. The one thing it's a little bit confusing to me, and especially looking at the website about the types of material to be recycled. I see some pictures that look like they belong in the recycle pile, and yet a very similar picture in the non-recyclable pile. So I can certainly send you along examples of what I'm talking about. I'm just wondering if we might want to clean up the cartoon a bit.
Mhm. Okay. So I'm gonna just give a quick overview of what I think the map. I think much as Bob had said, some of the smaller secondary roads, like North Shore, or is it North Channel or North Shore? There aren't North Channel, my apologies. There's not a ton of houses down that road where I would rather see them run straight across 64 and connect the two communities. Personally, I think that it would be more efficient because they're already that far down 64. If they can get it all in one, and then if not, then just to pick off the highest volume areas. This is only a trial to see how people would comply, and we want to get the most number of houses in this. So to spend an extra hour a day running down, say, those little tributary roads to pick up 1 to 2 citizens, we may not see the compliance, although we do want to see that subsample. We might not get the best numbers out of the pilot that way. So some of those smaller tributary roads that only have a certain number of people on them, we may want to forego those for running straight up 64 and picking up that balance instead, is my opinion.
Yes, and if I may, remembering the map, like I'm thinking of Jean Street. I don't think that was and Presskill Road. I know there's a lot of residents there also. I just have these two streets in my mind right now. So
yeah, because we want to start this as a project to see, will people be satisfied with the service? Is it beneficial? Is it cost effective? Will we get better compliance in our bins as a result? So yeah, I think picking off the highest number is certainly the aim, at least in my thoughts. So I think that if that is it for that discussion, Michelle, do you have enough thoughts on the map now to sort of form the RFP?
The recommendations will be taken into consideration, and we will provide an information report to council regarding the mapping. So thank you very much.
Perfect. Thanks, everybody. So we're going to move to the roundtable on 4.3. This is our opportunity to discuss anything environmental that we might have new thoughts about. So does anybody have any new or important issues they want to raise today? Oh, go ahead, Jennifer, please.
I didn't see that on the agenda, so I'm not sure if I'm on point here, but I just thought of something that I wrote down right now.
Mhm.
So we're not meeting over the summer, is that
No.
correct? Okay.
When is our next meeting, Michelle? September, correct?
To Mr. Chair, in the information report of the communication plan, we had looked at November. We can schedule something closer if September works for everybody. We could definitely accommodate that. The November was suggested to update on the tracking of the activities that are occurring at the facility, the other two transfer sites, the Noelville one and the Wolseley Bay.
Okay, Jennifer.
Okay. So if we were to meet in September at our next meeting, I was just thinking that maybe if we could include on the agenda the environmental education piece, and maybe as part of that meeting, look at some key dates throughout the year. I know this year was a wild year. Next year could also be a wild year. I like to hope that it's not going to be, but I go back and forth thinking maybe there's hope, but anyway, regardless, it would be great to come up with a plan, you know, like just off the top of my head, like Earth Day, for example. And I'm thinking, because I'm a teacher, I'm thinking dates that we can reach the schools, and maybe through that, you know, have events in the community as well. But these things take time to plan, and maybe in September, if we could have a layout of our key dates, and then maybe we can plan future meetings, you know, in timing with those key events. I just felt like this year, and it was a wild year, and, you know, but, you know, some things because of the wild year and so on and so forth got missed. So yeah, I feel like that's my stronger point, but there's always so much other stuff to talk about. We don't always get to that piece, which I totally understand, but maybe if we are able to have a plan for the year and work at it little by little, we'll be able to
Absolutely.
especially with the timing. I think it would be really great timing too if in the next year we are implementing this recycling program to really push the recycling piece on the education front. You know, and most of the schools are, although they're not necessarily fully on board with the recycling, I mean, I'm talking about individual actors within the school themselves, but
Yeah.
Usually in the classrooms when there are key dates like Earth Day and, you know, can't think Climate Change Week. I know the Rainbow District School Board has a monthly environmental focus. If we can tie into that, I think we might be able to push the recycling piece.
Absolutely. I mean, last 2 years, we haven't really been able to do our community cleanup on Earth Day. I put the first one in there in the first year of my term, and then we hit COVID, and of course, it derailed our committee here, and we're just getting back on our feet. But I agree, if we could plan out kind of a schedule around some dates, and maybe you could send some to me that the school that would align with the school, and then we can sort of format that to bring to that September meeting if we want to work together a little bit ahead of time, and that way we have a direction that we can all follow, and maybe work towards getting some more engagement in that way would be really good.
Sounds good.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Does anybody else have a roundtable discussion? Mayor Pajot, do you want to lead in with anything else? You're on mute. There we go.
It takes me a few minutes, not a few minutes, a few seconds to get to see where the hell the mute is. But anyway, no, I think this was a very good meeting. I think we're getting along, you know, we're making some progress. As for the pilot project for curbside, that we're not looking at doing that till at least September or October, until we get everything right.
Through you, Mr. Chair. Yes, Madam Mayor, I believe it's November.
November? Okay.
Yeah, something like
thank
that.
you.
So we're still a ways out from that. We got a lot of stuff to work out till then.
Yeah, I figured that. Yeah.
And
It sounds simple, but I know it's not.
Oh,
and we wanted to discuss it today with us being away for the summer, and the staff, I think we're looking for direction. So
yeah,
this gets them kind of a path to take and get the RFP prepared, and so that it can be implemented hopefully when it's ready.
And
Bob, do you have anything else you'd like to add this evening?
No, not really. I'm just happy with the whole process, and that change was needed and change is coming.
Excellent. Well, I myself would say this has been a really productive meeting again. I really enjoy working with this group. I'm going to move ahead to the last item number 5, the resolution to adjourn. So I need a mover and seconder to adjourn the meeting this evening. Mr. Parks and my seconder, Jennifer. Perfect. So if we're all in favor, hands up. Everybody's in favor. Excellent. So we move to adjourn the meeting at 7 p.m. Thank you, everybody. It's been nice seeing you all. And I look forward to seeing you after the summer.
Have a good summer, everybody.
Have a great summer and thank you.
Thank
May we meet in person.